Don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. For what the world needs is people who have come alive. That is a quote by influential civil rights leader Dr. Howard Thurman, who knew more than a thing or two about tackling challenges and about making waves of good in the world. In May of 2006, I was struggling up a steep mountain road that had forced me off my unicycle into a painstaking walk as I made my way up toward the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina. I was alone with my thoughts, which had turned dark with doubt. Appalachia was only the first and smallest of 3 mountain ranges I would need to cross in order to jump into the Pacific Ocean. Day by day, that ocean sounded sweeter. Thoughts flooded my head and deflated my heart. That if I was struggling this much already, there was absolutely no way I was going to make it all the way across the country. Ask anyone in a passing car who had seen my eyes crying, seen my ankle bleeding, who knew of the hills and weather systems ahead, and they would agree wholeheartedly. In fact, many passers-by made it a point to contribute to my endeavor by informing me of all the reasons I should not be riding. It was as if it was their duty to warn me, and they did their duty well. Then a small voice came up inside of me, that voice that puts doubt back in its place. Of course I could do it. Not because I was good at unicycling, for I still struggled every time I had to mount the wheel. And not because my body was magic, for parts of my body were screaming in defiance. And not because I had any solid understanding of the magnitude of my journey. This day, I still cannot wrap my head around 3,600 miles. But I knew I could ride 1 mile. And I knew after that, I could ride 1 more mile. I was pretty darn sure I could ride 5 miles in a day. And I knew 5 miles a day would get me across the country. Well, it turned out I did more than the theoretical 5 miles a day. I worked my way up to over 60, 70 miles a day, even logged a couple 100-mile century rides. After 2.5 months on the road, and 144 servings of ice cream, and getting chased by 14 dogs, having been proposed marriage twice by strangers, I became the first woman to unicycle from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific, simply by choosing forward progress every day. Every day I was fueled by pushing the boundary of what is deemed possible. And it was fueled by the knowledge that my ride benefited those lives of people fighting blood cancer. And I was fueled by the love that I had for my very dear uncle, who at that time was undergoing a very intense round of blood cancer treatment. What started as an idea took root in my heart and became my passion. It was then just as simple as choosing to ride. But really the choice had been made when I decided I would settle for nothing less than living a true and full life, pursuing that which makes me come alive, and that which perpetuates goodness and growth in myself and in the world around me. So the 2 unicycles I rode on my long expeditions are now in the National Bicycle Museum in Davis, California. I'm just happy for free storage. But I'll use this one tonight. So one thing you may or may not know about a unicycle, maybe you haven't put it together, not everyone's been on one, nor should you be. You may have been on a big wheel or a traditional tricycle, or some of you may be on a fixed gear bicycle. It's very much the same. So the pedals always move with the wheel. That's whether I'm accelerating or slowing. So there is no coasting. And it takes very honed balance to get any weight off the seat while riding. You can imagine what that's like with 30 pounds on your back. One of these days they're going to make panniers for unicycles, I swear. Yeah, so going uphill is hard on my quads. And so it requires leaning forward and pushing the pedals harder just to keep the wheel underneath my leaning body. Going downhill is hard on my knees. So without a brake on the unicycle, I lean slightly backward and resist the forward motion of the pedals. On my journeys, bystanders would inquire about my one-wheeled trike or my ukulele, but no matter what you call it, a unicycle is inherently unstable in every way. This is on the Great Divide mountain bike route. Would have been far more entertaining with the bag splat into the mud. In 1996, I was just a 13-year-old kid who happened to find balancing challenges appealing. I was just a kid who happened to see an odd novel item in what I've come to call a catalog of useless things that comes in the mail. I think you might know the kind I'm talking about. But when my eyes were opened to this odd item they call a unicycle, a seed was planted and life opportunities unfolded as later on I discovered passions for cycling and long-distance journeys. I stand here now as someone who has learned firsthand the fallibility of the word impossible. Since facing my doubts on the side of a North Carolina road in 2006, I've continued to test the so-called impossible by, together with a friend, becoming the first people to unicycle off pavement from Canada to Mexico along the Continental Divide. I jumped headfirst into one and only one triathlon, an Ironman. And just weeks ago, I finished running 487 miles across the state of Florida in 20 days. But the simple reality is that every life-changing accomplishment can be broken down into steps, brought to you by the letter D. Determine your passion. Whether it's learning languages, growing a business, climbing a mountain, determine what it is that makes you tick, what makes you excited to live a full life. Define your goal. Where do you want to be next summer? What do you want to have accomplished by your 60th birthday? What personal traits do you want to have developed in the next 5 years? Deconstruct into bite-sized chunks. Sometimes this can be the most daunting step, but it is essential. It will often require help from others and insights from experts, but move backward from your goal and forward from where you are until those paths meet. And now you have your recipe for success. The last one's easy. Decide to succeed. With the stepping stones laid out for you, now it's just a simple decision of moving forward. Some days you will gain excitement from looking ahead at that path. And other days that exact same sight will leave you feeling so defeated. Just know that that path is there and focus on taking the next step. And when you get there, take the next step. One step at a time, you will arrive at your goal. Throughout my expeditions, I've continued to face my inner demons and other extreme difficulties. It took me a while, but I've finally learned to see these encounters as opportunities to grow into a better person. And in the same breath, I become overwhelmed by the inevitable joy that accompanies doing that which makes you come alive. To be honest, even though I was there for every step of every journey, I can't fully wrap my head around the distances I've covered, but I know what it's like to go a mile, and so that's where I will begin my next ambition. It is within your power to determine your passion, define your goal, deconstruct into manageable increments, and decide to succeed. I will end with a quote by Goethe. Whatever you can do or dream you can, begin it. Thank you.